Thank you guys for having me. I'm Marlies Ledbetter. I am the owner of Indie Hemp Company, which will be changed to Indie Cannabis Company because Texas wouldn't allow me to even have the name hemp until 2 years ago. So if you don't know how the cannabis laws are in Texas, they suck. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I really want to tell you guys about my story, which is called Raw Pain to Purpose. I have a very long history of physical and mental health issues. Some of you guys know about my background, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and give you some ideas and tips about how to move forward from taking your trauma into success. This is my company, Indie Hemp Company. I am on social media. If you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I created this educational consultancy because I found when I started using cannabis and CBD products that there was really no education out there. A lot of misinformation, a lot of medical facilities just had no idea how to partnership, how to refer these products to people, and so I felt like there was a really nice place for me in between as an educator and a historian on cannabis. So this is a little snapshot of my website. You can book a private consultation with me. You can shop for CBD products. We are USDA Certified Organic. So how did it all start? My background actually is as a musician. If you guys didn't know, I'm a professional singer. I've been singing professionally since I was 6 years old. In my background, I went to college for music. But 15 years in human resources, headhunting, talent and sales strategy management. So that's kind of my background before I got into cannabis. And so that really helped position me to be able to speak in front of people and things like that. But when I was working as a headhunter and I was a $1 million producer, it was literally killing me. I'm sure you guys saw what happened in the oil and gas industry. I was primarily a headhunter for oil and gas, and it crashed. And this was actually the time that my health started deteriorating. So I was born with multiple issues. My dad was a Vietnam vet, and he sprayed Agent Orange from his helicopter. And if you don't know what Agent Orange is, it's a massive neurotoxin that gets attached to your DNA and it's passed down. And now we know that it's been passed down 4 generations. It causes things like spina bifida, scoliosis, manic depression, bipolar disorder, severe ADHD, and a slew of other issues like neuropathy. So if you ever meet somebody who's born of a Vietnam vet and they have a ton of health issues, that's actually where it comes from. And so I was on up to 13 medications by my early 30s. A lot of them were interacting with each other. They were causing me sleeplessness and obviously manic issues, as well as causing me to have a non-functioning immune system. And Dr. Michael over here can tell you a little bit about that. But in 2013, I was starting to have a lot of interactions with my medications and I started blacking out. I didn't even know that I was blacking out, but my friends at work were like, Marlies, where are you? We are not here. And being someone who always wears kind of shield, I'm always, I try to be strong for other people. I was dying inside literally. And I'll say this because I am a 2-time suicide survivor, so I talk very openly about my mental health issues. I wanted to die, but because I was a mother of a beautiful daughter, who I share about a lot on social media, I couldn't possibly do that to myself or to her. But I was so tired of being sick, of being in pain, of not knowing where to go for things. I felt like my therapist was failing me. These psychiatric meds were not helping. They were making it worse. And then I was prescribed Sudafed for a sinus infection. It interacted with one of my medications and gave me a grand mal seizure. During the seizure, I fell forward, and I don't really remember the specifics. We kind of had to piece everything back together. I fell forward and hit my head somewhere in the bathtub, I found this graphic online, which is exactly where my head was sliced open. But it didn't swell externally, so my brain started swelling on the inside, and when I got to the ER, they induced me into a coma. I don't remember how long I was in a coma, but we had to also, after the brain swelling went down, that we had to figure out what we were going to do with all these medications. And I told my husband straight out, I don't want to be on any medications at all. There's got to be something on this earth that can help me, and it's not in a pill. And I had been a fan of cannabis in my high school and college years, not going to lie, but I couldn't be high at work. I couldn't be high at night and take care of my child. And how could I possibly get a product from the earth that was going to help me with all of my issues. And it started with CBD. So my husband was like to do a podcast. How many guys are Joe Rogan fans? Anybody? Huge Joe Rogan fan over here. He was talking with a guy who created a strain of cannabis for a little girl named Charlotte Figge, who had 300 seizures a day. She was dying. She passed away this last year, actually, but she was the pinnacle person who helped get cannabis on the map again. It helped with the laws changed. It helped why we see all of these CBD companies everywhere now. But Charlotte Figge was given a strain of cannabis that is very low in THC. If you don't know, THC is what makes you high, and very high in CBD, which is an anti-inflammatory, anti-seizure, anti-anxiety. It has 1,000 different purposes, but it gets to the root of disease. And so my husband was like, well, why don't we try it? And I thought, you know, what else do I have to lose? And so I started using it, and within a few days, after not being on Klonopin, because I had been Klonopin for like years and years and years, I was sleeping through the night. And then months later, I started noticing my back pain was gone. And then I noticed that I was doing really well at work. And so it just started working and working, and it wasn't quite legal here, but we were willing to do whatever it took. Because my husband said to me, I don't need to lose the strongest person in my life. And somehow that was me. I felt like I was the one that needed to be taken care of, but it was me. And so entered CBD. When I talk about my process in life, a lot of it starts obviously with the seizure. I was in my rawest form. I was in therapy for a year. I couldn't even be around light for months. I had massive migraines. The withdrawals of these medications were terrible. I was an addict, and I didn't even realize it, but the pharmaceutical companies had made me into that. And so when we started using CBD and it started working that predominantly for me, my husband started taking it, and then my daughter started taking it, and then my parents started taking it, and I offered it to some of my friends, and I thought, this is working so miraculously, everybody needs to know about this. But then I started talking about it, and people were like, what are you, selling drugs now, Marlies? So I realized that I needed to bridge the education, and so I really dove deep. I went totally down the rabbit hole. I'm like known for rabbit holes, and realized that there needed to be somebody out there to tell the truth. So if you didn't know, the prohibition is total BS, and I would love to teach you more about it. I have tons of videos on my YouTube about it, but starting raw is where it all began. So when I think about raw, I think about food that's uncooked, right? Gross. Unless it's really good sushi. A substance in its natural state, not processed or purified yet. A part of the body that's red and painful, especially as the result of a skin abrasion. Kind of, I always think about when I'm thinking about like what I need to do during the day, I think about my abrasion on my head that you can't see anymore, but it's still there. I still sometimes feel it. Obviously, strong and undisguised, raw passion, and a person in a new job. So some of you guys that are looking for new opportunities, you're in your raw state, you're like ready to get out there pretty soon, right? So I thought about where did all of this come from? Well, I was put into the most raw, literally completely broken down state. And I realized that my comfort zone that I had been in for so long was not a good place to be. Your comfort zone is not a good benchmark. And so if you guys are really comfortable in life, you're not growing. And I really, really encourage you to do hard things. And so I love these little quotes that I found. When you're not used to confidence, it may seem like arrogance, right? Because you're not really truly confident. It looks like arrogance to some people. When you're not used to being, or when you're used to being passive, assertiveness seems like aggression, right? How many people you know as like really assertive women, and they're like, oh, she's a bee. She's so like harsh. But they wouldn't say that about a man. And so I really think that that's interesting. And then when you're not used to getting your needs met, prioritizing yourself may seem like selfish. And one of the major things that I notice with the women and the men that I work with, and even in my practice, is that people feel like they're selfish for getting their needs met first. But we always think about that little story of, you have to put the oxygen mask on first before you put it on someone else. If you are not prioritizing yourself and you are not meeting your needs, you're not moving forward in life. Okay, so this led me just through all of the things that I've been doing lately to writing a book. I worked with the most amazing life coach, Angela Aja. How many of you guys work with her? Yes. She's so incredible. I came to her because I realized my path or trajectory was moving really fast, and I needed to talk to someone about getting my head straight, getting my thoughts, my goals on paper. I really couldn't even write a goal. I felt like all the goals that I've written were like, I mean, I know I can like already reach these things, right? Like I was writing goals that I knew I could do, and she was like, I want you to write down a goal that seemed so ridiculous that becoming that would really put you over the edge. And so we wrote down a goal. I'm gonna stand on a national stage and I'm gonna speak about my journey. And the next year I was on the stage in Las Vegas in front of our entire CBD company singing and talking and teaching people about the science and the proof of the endocannabinoid system. So it was just like knowing her and getting with her, she encouraged me to write a story and write a book about it. And so it's gonna be called Raw. Does anybody recognize that Raw logo? You know what it is. So there's actually a company called Raw that makes rolling papers, so it's kind of a joke. Anyways, I joke a lot about cannabis, and honestly, we should have a little bit more fun with it because it is a really very safe product. Anyways, so Raw stands for regret nothing, authenticity is everything, and wake into your warrior. These are 3 steps that I realized I had taken, sometimes backwards and forwards, but I always tell people, don't wait for your circumstances to change so that you can start showing up for life. Because I wasn't really showing up. I thought I was, and everybody thought I was, but I wasn't. And when that seizure happened, it was the kick in the ass that I needed. So I think about regret as what ifs. How many people study energy or understand energy frequencies? Anybody? I know you do. So the highest frequency, what we think of like monks, the most enlightened person is the highest frequency. This is a vibration that the body actually produces. Everything in the world, by the way, is energy. So your music you listen to is energy. There's a reason why it makes you feel a certain way. Food has energy. Everything has energy because we are basically just like spinning balls of energy. And so regret, though, guess where it stands on the frequency list? Almost down to the bottom. Next to shame, which is the frequency that people feel when they commit suicide, which was the frequency I was living in. I was living in regret, shame, and pitiful. Did you know sorry? The root of sorry is pitiful. So when you say sorry to people, like, oh, I'm sorry, you're literally dropping your frequency down. So stop saying sorry. Say thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for taking your time. I appreciate you. Switch sorry to thank you, and your whole day will change. So that's my challenge to you. Stop saying sorry, and you'll feel way, way better. Anyways, but my regret started with what if. 5 regrets, 5 what ifs that I realized. Am I pointing at something? Okay. These are really bouncy. I got a little carried away. Number 1, what will my parents, neighbors, and friends think if I start going around calling myself a cannabis advisor? Was college a waste? I went to school for music, but also business. Am I really going to be able to utilize all of the experience and education? I think I'm a drug dealer. I get that a lot. What if the legal landscape doesn't change soon, right? Texas is way behind, and there's a lot of people in here. I know Missy and a lot of people here have children that need medical cannabis for their children to survive, for their lives, to actually stay here on this earth. I really encourage you to start thinking about what you do in your voting to make sure that this happens. It's not Democrat or Republican, it's making sure that the people get heard. Just sidebar. And then number 5, what if no one listens? What if I go on a total rampage rabbit hole and no one really cares? But also who the F cares? Because I'm doing it for me, right? We do these things for ourselves. And so this was my journey. This was no one else's journey. And I knew it was gonna be a little bumpy and a little crazy going down the road. But also I needed to think about like my you know what, needs to be gone. When I was in the hospital, it was so random that this nurse was listening to a podcast, and this blogger had written a story about 5 regrets of the dying. Bronnie Ware, had met with people in palliative care and asked them about their top 5 or their biggest regret of life. And so she compiled them into 5, and it was a blog that turned into this book that she wrote, which is a national bestseller. I highly recommend you reading this because it really puts your life into perspective. And it makes you think about how many of you here are in your older ages, your older stages, and you still have regrets, right? Number 1, I wish I had let myself be happier, right? That one stings. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. You know, if you're really passionate about it, it doesn't feel like work. But a lot of people work and they're not happy, right? You wanted to be a musician and you had to be an accountant because your parents told you so, and so you just live life and then you die and you're like, shoot, this sucks. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Why are we not telling people how we feel? Why are we not telling the truth, right? We say a lot of white lies every day. And there's a way to tell the truth without hurting people, and I'm going to teach you about that. And number 5, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends, which is, you know, we have Facebook now, but I wish I had the courage to live my life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. Right? My parents expected me to be something. And when I told them about the business I was creating, my dad literally didn't talk to me for half a year. And they started using my CBD and he felt better. So he honestly, my dad had like a total turnaround. Like, we're like, we got our dad back. He's not a jerk anymore. Hope he's not watching. He probably won't. So how do you move forward from that, right? So regret. We have to move forward from regret to make any change. So steps to move forward, accept the reality of the thing you regret, right? It's over, it's done. Past is past and present is now, right? So we can't change the past or what's happening. We can only change the future. So accept the reality, embrace the reality, acknowledge the truth is the first step, right? If you go Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, one of the first things is like, accept it, know it, own it. Forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself won't negate the thing that you regret, but it'll set you free with the power that holds over you. Number 3, make amends. Number 4, forget what is behind you. Leave the past where it happened. Today is too precious. And number 5, do the opposite of what you regret, right? If you regret something, don't do that anymore. Do the opposite. And people will see the living example that you are doing by not living a life of regret. So if you guys have regrets, stop it right now. Fix it. This book totally changed my life. Next to the Bible, I am a Christian, Jesus follower, hallelujah. And this book next to the Bible is probably the most important book I've ever read. The 4 Agreements is literally the steps to living a regret-free life. If you have not read this book, it'll change your perspective of everything. It's a very short book. It costs $5 on Amazon. It's quick audible. You can listen to it over the weekend. Completely amazing. But the 4 agreements are: be impeccable with your word. Impeccable. That means don't gossip, don't tell untruths, don't tell untruths to yourself. Every time that you say and repeat something in your mind, you're lowering your vibration. You're causing disease in your body. Think about that. The more self-talk that you change, the more your body will change. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Guess what? Everything that happens to you is not about you. It's about them, right? If you really think about it that way. Don't make assumptions, right? When you're like thinking, like someone calls you, I need to talk to you, and you're like, oh my God, I probably said this and did this, and it's like, typically not. Don't make assumptions. Don't put yourself through that rigor. Just own it, accept it, go into the conversation. It's probably like my cat has like boogers or, you know. So, and then always do your best, right? How hard is this one? If you regret things in life, it's tied to not doing your best, right? You didn't prepare. You didn't really, put your full vigor into it. You probably blame things on other people. And so always doing your best is a hard one. But if you can do these 4, your life will be totally transformed. And so every single day I wake up and I look at these 4 agreements and I tell myself, you're not going to talk about other people. You're not going to say untruths. You're not going to say untruths to yourself. Literally, as soon as something's in my mind and I put a dress on, I'm like, oh, Marlies, you're fat. No, you're not. You look amazing. And I fight myself inwardly. My husband's like, are you fighting with yourself again? Because you're like making weird gestures. Yes, I am. I woke up and I was in a bad mood and I decided to talk myself out of it. It's called meditation. Step 2 to living your raw life is being authentic. And I love this quote: as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we have liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And I didn't realize that until all of a sudden I started posting things online and being really, really authentic, and I shared my entire suicide story. And I had people coming out of the woodwork that I had somehow impacted their life. I liberated myself and it liberated them. And every single day you can be doing this. Show up as you, be your true self. This is a video of my sister and I, oh my gosh. So my sister Melissa and I are 16 months apart, and she is my super best friend, and we did a video doing makeup with tiny hands. It's impossible, by the way. It was hilarious. We drank way too much wine, We went back and watched it again, and we laughed so hard that we watched it again and again and again. And my friends were like, what are you doing? I'm like, you know what? It sounded fun, and we did it, and we showed up as us. And one thing my sister always tells me, she's like, that was the funnest day ever. And so we continue to have the funnest day ever. Let's do whatever we want, right? Unless it's not legal, which sometimes I cross the line with that, but anyways. All right, number 1, meditate. This is just self-talk, by the way. And when you meditate, do not think that you're gonna empty out your brain, because that's impossible. But what you can do is focus on the things that are coming in and out of your brain. So meditation is just a really good time for you to have quiet. It can be in the shower, it can be right when you wake up, you can take deep breaths before you get out of bed, you can wiggle your feet into the carpet, get your energy going, but make sure that you're spending time with yourself. It can be on your drive to work, anytime, just fill your brain with good stuff. Make sure you're doing that. Prayer is meditation. Strengthen your boundaries. Please start cutting people out that no longer serve you. And this can be family. If your mom is just a piece of work and makes you feel terrible all the time, you need to put some boundaries up. It is going to continue to tear into your life. We get to accept as humans on this earth who our friends and family are, because they don't always have to be blood, right? And similarly with the people that you work with, you can easily say, I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I don't have time at this moment to discuss this, but why don't we get some lunch? And by the way, that person's gonna forget all of the things that they thought about by lunchtime. So just make sure you put boundaries up and tell people no. It's okay to say no. And you can say it in the nice way, right? We don't have to say like, no, that really doesn't align to me right now. That's a really good way of being like, get out. Number 3, tell the truth and share your thoughts. Oh, the truth is hard, y'all. I had to say some really hard truths with my husband a couple years after we got together of like things that I wasn't super proud of. And it was the most liberating thing ever, releasing that trauma, allowing myself to be real, because he's not gonna leave me for being a dumbass. So it was just really, really important for me to share my truth, and I try to share my truth with everyone. And I'm a little bit raw, and sometimes I come harsh, but that's who I am, and people are gonna love me for who I am. And if they don't, then they don't align to me. Number 4, spend times on things you enjoy. Get a massage. Run around barefoot in the mud. Who cares, right? Do things that make you happy and don't worry about judgment. Because honestly, like remember that quote about liberating yourself, you liberate others? By you running around in the mud, watching neighbors watching you run through the rainstorm, they're gonna be like, I wish I could do that. Oh my God, I've always wanted to do that. And then they're gonna call you like, I saw you running around in the water. Next time, call me, because I'm totally down for that with some wine. Number 5, to celebrate your uniqueness. We're all so different, you guys, but we're also very the same. And there are so many people that are very similar to you. So celebrate it and allow other people to celebrate it, and go out and be like, let's celebrate our wildness. Like how many women, get a divorce and they celebrate it, right? I'm like, I'm free, right? Celebrate it, celebrate life. Okay. I love this. Imagine the relief you'll experience when you're no longer worrying about the perceptions of others, and finally just being yourself, comfortable, happy, satisfied. When we can learn to do this, we empower others to do the same, right? Don't be afraid of what you're posting online. You're like, oh, this is so stupid. Guess what? It could go viral. It happened to me a bunch of times. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna delete this. I've had like 15 views. And then all of a sudden there's like 285 views, 285,000 views of me doing something weird with like a micro. I was like, wah, 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 wah. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so super silly, but you never know. And some people are like, that was hilarious, by the way. Okay. But I didn't do it for them. Okay, and then wake your warrior. This is one that, anybody like, when they were born, they just like knew they were like either a warrior or they were like a gentle compassion, caregiver. How many kind of like have always been born knowing who they were? Anybody? Yeah, you just knew like your ancestors already gave you the download. Jesus already talked to you. He's like, this is who you are. I always knew I was a warrior. I just didn't figure it out until I was in 5th grade, and then again after the seizure. This is me as a Viking during Halloween because I painted everyone else's faces and didn't have time for myself. So Lonnie Fisher was this girl in 5th grade who is specially abled, and she was always in my homeroom because my last name is Fitch and hers Fisher. So we're always together every single year of our life. And by the way, she works at Walmart, and her boyfriend is also specially abled, and they're greeters, and it's so cute when I see them and they don't have any idea who I am. but I will never forget her for the rest of my life. So Lonnie was being bullied really, really bad in 5th grade. They were throwing Tweeties in her hair and clothespins and stabbing her in, I mean, it was like bad. They were like poking her in the PE room when she would get dressed. They would laugh hysterically at her. And I just sat there, like first I was really upset and then I was fuming. And then I started seeing red. And I would come home and mom's like, you know, the teachers will take care of it. I'm like, the teachers are not fixing this, Mom. I don't know what I should do. And she was like, then you should stand up to them. And I'm like, to all the cool girls? Like, you want me to just like stand up to them? I'm like tiny. I was like super short at the time. She was like, just stand up to them, Marlies. And months went by. And then we're on the play field doing tetherball, and we all have our little tetherball squares. And these girls are playing tetherball with Lonnie and literally hitting her in the face with the tetherball, like purposely hitting her. And I remember literally seeing red. I mean, I felt like sweat was pouring down my face and I was enraged. I mean, this is maybe what people feel before they murder someone. I don't know. I was like this close. I didn't have any weapons on me at the time, concealed carry, but that's much later. And I ran up to the tetherball and I grabbed the rope, and pretty sure I got like massive burn on my hands. And I just started screaming like, ah! Not joking. I was so upset for her. I was so mad that people could be so terrible. And to this day, I never allow someone to treat someone like that. Even if someone is standing for something you don't believe in, it is no reason to trash them and make them feel less. We all deserve to be equal. We all deserve to be heard. And they were abusing Lonnie Fisher because she didn't know how to stand up for herself. And I took the burden of her for the rest of that year and the next year and the next year. And I remember sitting there and getting things thrown at my head and things put in my backpack in my cubby and slime put through my locker. And all I thought was, at least it's not happening to Lonnie Fisher. And that's when I decided that I was going to be a warrior. And I didn't really realize how I could be a warrior until I was much older, but I'll never forget when that happened. And Lonnie Fisher will never remember who I am. She never knows who I am when I go to Walmart and see her and her boyfriend Kyle, but she will forever be a part of my story. So what does it mean to be a warrior? A warrior is a human being who accepts the call and walks the long, arduous path of becoming one's full potential. A warrior is a human being who questions all authority and all conventional wisdom that is spoken in the course of their life. Enter cannabis, right? I was like, how can so many people be lied to? Oh, it's a dangerous drug, you can die. First of all, no one's ever died from cannabis use. Number two, it is super low addiction rates, 6%, which is lower than any single drug and medicine on the market. On the market, you guys. But we've been told this and propaganded this for years and years and years. So I'm not going to stand by and allow the truth to be not to be spoken. A warrior knows when to let silence speak, right? How many times have you not said anything or watched someone else not say anything and it's the most powerful thing you've ever seen, right? Sometimes you don't have to say a freaking thing. A warrior is fearless in living, and sometimes fear is what drives them. A warrior knows their gifts and develops them throughout their life. They're always changing, always growing, always working on their core, always working on their self-development, right? How many of you guys know a warrior that's like always like, I have to be better, I have to fight, I have to do this, right? And it takes a lot of stress. These warriors need help too. Like healers need to be healed. I have to go and get massages constantly because I'm always like holding it in my back. And a warrior knows suffering. A warrior is not afraid of suffering and expects it. A warrior learns from suffering. A warrior leans into joy in both suffering and bliss. Think about your warrior inside yourself. So how do you wake your warrior? Number one, don't think, know, and act. We have a gut for a reason. It's literally like an energy that we get. It's our sixth sense. We know when things are right, and we need to act on it faster, not over-strategize every single thing. Just go with it and then figure everything else out, right? How many people are like the do it and then figure everything else later, right? Or like act and then apologize later? That's me. Just do it and then I'll be like, oh, sorry. Oh, not sorry. Thank you. I appreciate you for helping me. Number two, don't be motivated by money or anything external, right? A warrior doesn't really react to other things. A warrior, it's an innate thing. So find your super, super pain passion down deep inside of you and start running with it. Number three, don't be afraid of the consequences of failure and own it up when you screw up. I screw up daily and I apologize for it on a daily basis. I apologize to myself on a daily basis when I let myself down, right? When I wake up and I procrastinate and now I'm like 3 episodes into a Netflix show and I'm like, all right, Marlies, you've got like a lot of stuff to do. Can we knock it off, please? Number 4, don't compete with others, right? How many people deal with like comparison issues, right? I go on Instagram all the time and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. She's been so successful. She's doing so much better than me, so much faster than me. And I go into self-talk and I think that I'm not good enough. Meanwhile, there's all these other people watching me going, oh my God, I wish I could be her, right? And so we continuously do this over and over and over again to ourselves because we're just competing and compare. We should only be competing with ourselves. Or find somebody who's a massive mentor to you, follow them. Find out what they've done in their life and mirror it, right? We're sometimes just mirrors of other people. Number 5, start before you're ready, right? Probably back to number 1, don't think, just act. A lot of people say, well, when COVID is over, when this changes, and when everybody and this and that, and like, no, just go, just do it. Stop telling yourself no. Number 6, take the shot every time, but know your target, right? You can't just shoot, right? If you're like shooting guns at people, you know, where you have to have a target. Not really, I'm just joking. But when you go to a shooting range, right? How many people are gun owners? Anybody here? So I think it's really important to be protected, and I think that people should be very, very responsible with firearms, right? So I think that there's a huge wave of misnomers going around the world with this. Violent people are going to do violent things, but know your target. You don't go to the shooting range and just shoot randomly at things, right? You have to know your target. You have to be safe. And it's also about protecting yourself, because if you don't know your target and you don't have a plan, you're going to have a lot of failure along the way. So find someone who can help you plan, strategize, have a goal in mind, hire a life coach, hire somebody to help you, or read some really good self-development books. I have tons and tons and tons of you guys are readers. I read like every day. And number 7, confidence is your greatest asset. And I want to pitch back to Angela Aja, who's watching, by the way. She's been sick. Hi, Angela. I love you. I hired her 2 years ago because I said I need to create a protective bubble around myself because I want to grow, but I want to stop allowing all the crap like coming at me. And she goes, that is all you. And your confidence is lacking. And I was like, I can sing in front of 1 million people. Are you kidding me? I have like all the confidence in the world. And then I read her book about the caterpillar to the butterfly, and I was like, oh. I cried for like 2 hours in the bathtub realizing I wasn't even a butterfly yet. I had to deal with all of my SHI, you know what, and really figure out like how I was going to project myself and protect myself, right? Because once you become a leader and you're around all these people and they want so much of you, then you start losing your energy, right? You're allowing yourself to be used. And so when I came to her for a protective bubble, I had no idea what she was about to set forth for me, inside of me. And so if you don't know your true confidence, if you're not really sure if you're confident, or you do not have confidence, I highly suggest that you work with someone on that, because it's so beautiful and it's so amazing. So to wrap up, get raw. Just get raw. It feels really, really good when you rip the Band-Aid off. So I suggest everybody start ripping Band-Aids and then make sure you put some, CBD on it. Let yourself heal, no regrets, be authentically you, wake your warrior, find out what that warrior is inside of you, pray on it, meditate on it. I bet you guys have all a story inside of you that if you just really think about it and you tell it to other people, it'll change other people's lives. It really will. You all have a story, I know you do. So start telling them. Inspire, right? We're here as inspired leaders, and this is why I wanted to talk about this entire presentation, because when we show up as leaders, we have to make sure that we're doing all this for others, for our team, for the people around us, the people that are looking up to us, and there's always somebody that's looking at you. Regardless of how you feel about yourself, there's always somebody watching and waiting for you to rise up for them, sometimes, for yourself. So teach others and help them grow with you. Your imprint on this world lasts forever. I hope you guys, have you ever heard of generational trauma? Right? Things that have happened way before you were ever on this earth. But it seeds in us, it's in our DNA. And so the mark that you put on this earth, the moment you stop the generational trauma, the moment that you restart your family lineage in another path is imprinted here forever and into the universe. And my daughter and I always talk to each other, I love you forever and into the universe, which is also funny because when I signed my American Idol contract, it said forever into the universe. Who's the lawyer here? No joke, that was the exact word in my contract, that they own you forever and into the universe. And I was like, Why am I signing this? Oh, because I want to be famous. Which I realized I didn't anymore. Your imprint lasts in this world forever. And then action, live as the example and never stop evolving, you guys. We never ever are like, we've never made it. It's not about making it. It's about the journey. It's about changing and evolving. Like you could be switching gears every moment of your life. Like next week, I want to live in a tiny home in the mountains, naked, like whatever. But just go with it and always be evolving, always be self-disciplining, always be reading, always be encouraging and learning from others, and surround yourself with people that are amazing, because who is around you directly, your 5 friends and your family, affect everything that you do in life. Right? So if your sister's being a bee, maybe not give her so much time and bring in somebody like these amazing leaders here into your inner circle. Spend time with them, go to lunch with them, learn from them, learn their stories. And don't ever judge anyone from their cover, okay? Because I will say this, I've been judged good and bad for the way that I look. And first of all, I don't give anything. It sucks to be judged, right? We get judged all the time and people look at you like, oh my gosh, you're this or you're that. And I encourage you guys to like really reach out and learn from people, because everyone has a story and it's a beautiful story, and we are all super different human beings, but we're also, like I said, the same. And the last thing I want to leave with you is this quote that's going to be in my book, and it's called it says, "The moment I switched how I was thinking, when I went from no way to there's got to be a way, I realized the biggest obstacle that had been holding me back my entire life was me." And be amazing. I'm Marlies, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. They call me the CannaBoss. If you'd like to have a consult with me and you're really wondering what the heck I do, I'd love to talk with you. I do free consultations all the time. But I appreciate you. I really thank you so much for spending time with me and listening to my extremely long and painful presentation. But I do a lot of stuff on social media to, demystifies cannabis. So I appreciate you and thank you.